Nutty was a small, energetic squirrel. He lived in Sunny Meadow, a bright and bustling part of the Whispering Woods. His fur was the color of ripe acorns, and his tail twitched with excitement as he chased butterflies through the tall grass. Nutty loved to explore, his tiny paws scampering over fallen logs and up-towering trees. He was always cheerful, greeting every creature with a bright, bushy-tailed smile. Nutty was smaller than most of the other squirrels. This often made him the target of teasing. The bigger squirrels would call him Tiny Nut and Little Whiskers. They would boast about their nut-gathering skills and how high they could climb, making Nutty feel small and insignificant. Sometimes Nutty would wish he were bigger and stronger. He dreamed of a day when he could prove to everyone that even a small squirrel could be brave and important. Nutty would often sit alone, watching the other squirrels play. He'd imagine himself joining in, showing off his own impressive leaps and bounds. He'd picture the other squirrels cheering him on, finally accepting him as one of their own. He knew he had a big heart, even if his body was small. He believed that one day he would do something extraordinary. He would prove that size didn't matter. He would show everyone, including himself, that he was more than just Tiny Nut. He knew deep down that bravery wasn't about size, but about the size of your heart. He just needed a chance to show it. One sunny afternoon, Nutty was gathering acorns near the edge of Sunny Meadow. He heard a group of birds chattering excitedly in the branches above. He stopped to listen, his ears twitching curiously. The birds were talking about a scary creature called the shadow fox. They said it lived in the darkest part of the woods, beyond the whispering pines. The birds described the shadow fox as a large, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. They said it roamed the forest at night, its eerie howl echoing through the trees. The birds chirped nervously, their feathers ruffled with fear. They warned each other to stay away from the dark part of the woods lest they encounter the terrifying shadow fox. Nutty listened intently, his heart pounding in his chest. He had never heard of the shadow fox before. He imagined what it must look like, its shadowy form gliding through the trees. A shiver ran down his spine, but a strange sense of curiosity also stirred within him. He wondered if the stories were true. He thought about the other squirrels and how they would surely be too scared to go near the shadow fox. He imagined himself venturing into the dark woods, facing the creature everyone feared. He pictured returning to Sunny Meadow, a hero in the eyes of his peers. This could be his chance to prove his bravery. Nutty decided he would go and find the shadow fox. He knew it was a dangerous idea, but he couldn't resist the urge to explore. He wanted to see for himself if the stories were true. He wanted to prove to everyone, and most importantly to himself, that he wasn't afraid. He told his friends about his plan, but they tried to dissuade him. "Don't be silly, Nutty," said Hazel, a plump brown squirrel. "The shadow fox is dangerous. You're too small to go into the dark woods alone." Another squirrel, Chestnut, chimed in. "It's a foolish idea, Nutty. You'll get lost or worse." The other squirrels shook their heads, worried about their small friend. They urged him to stay in Sunny Meadow where it was safe, but Nutty was determined. He thanked his friends for their concern, but he explained that he needed to do this. He told them he wasn't afraid and that he wanted to prove he could be brave. He reassured them that he would be careful and that he would return safely. He knew in his heart that he had to face his fears. He took a deep breath and set off towards the Whispering Pines, the gateway to the dark woods. He knew that the journey would be challenging, but he was ready. He was determined to meet the shadow fox and discover the truth for himself. He was ready to prove that even a small squirrel could have a big heart full of courage. Section 4. The journey begins. Nutty scurried through the undergrowth, the sunlight dappling through the leaves above. The air grew cooler as he entered the Whispering Pines. The tall trees cast long shadows, making the forest floor seem darker and more mysterious. Nutty's heart pounded in his chest, but he pressed on, his determination unwavering. He was on a mission to find the shadow fox. The deeper he went into the woods, the quieter it became. The cheerful chirping of the birds was replaced by the rustling of leaves and the creaking of branches. Nutty could feel his fear growing, but he reminded himself of his purpose. He was doing this to prove his bravery, not only to others but to himself. He was determined to show that size didn't define courage. He continued his journey, his small paws padding softly on the forest floor. He climbed over fallen logs and squeezed through narrow gaps between rocks. The forest seemed to grow darker, with every step, but Nutty's resolve remained strong. He imagined the surprised faces of his friends when he returned, having faced the shadow fox. As the sun began to set, the woods became even more eerie. Strange shadows danced among the trees, and the wind whispered through the branches like ghostly voices. Nutty felt a shiver run down his spine, but he refused to give in to his fear. He was close to his destination. He could feel it. He was determined to meet the shadow fox, no matter how scary it might be. Finally, Nutty reached the darkest part of the woods. The trees here were gnarled and twisted, their branches reaching out like skeletal arms. The air was heavy with an unfamiliar scent, and a strange silence hung over the area. Nutty took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. He looked around, searching for any sign of the shadow fox. Suddenly, a pair of glowing red eyes appeared in the darkness. A low growl echoed through the trees, sending chills down Nutty's spine. He knew he had found what he was looking for. The shadow fox emerged from the shadows, its large form looming over Nutty. It was even bigger and more imposing than he had imagined. Nutty stood his ground despite his fear. The shadow fox stared at Nutty, its red eyes burning into him. Nutty felt a wave of fear wash over him, but he refused to back down. He had come this far, he wasn't going to run away now. He looked up at the shadow fox, his small body trembling slightly. He took a deep breath and spoke, his voice surprisingly steady. "Hello," Nutty squeaked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Are you the shadow fox?" The shadow fox let out another low growl, its eyes still fixed on Nutty. Nutty gathered his courage and continued, "I'm Nutty, I came to meet you." The shadow fox tilted its head, seemingly surprised by Nutty's bravery. It took a step closer, sniffing the air. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" The shadow fox rumbled, its voice deep and echoing. "Everyone else is." Nutty stood tall, his small chest puffed out. "I wanted to see if the stories were true," he replied. "But you don't seem so scary after all. Maybe you're just lonely." The shadow fox's eyes widened slightly, as if surprised by Nutty's words. The shadow fox sighed, its large body slumping slightly. "It gets lonely in the dark woods," it admitted. "No one ever wants to come here." Nutty felt a surge of empathy for the creature. He understood what it felt like to be lonely and misunderstood. He sat down beside the shadow fox, his tail twitching nervously. "I'll be your friend," Nutty offered, his voice full of sincerity. The shadow fox looked at him, its red eyes softening. A small smile crept onto its face. "Really?" it asked, its voice filled with hope. Nutty nodded, his small face beaming. "Really?" he confirmed. From that day on, Nutty and the shadow fox became the best of friends. They would often meet in the dark woods, sharing stories and laughter. Nutty learned that the shadow fox wasn't scary at all, just misunderstood. And the shadow fox discovered that even the smallest of creatures could have the biggest heart. The other animals in the forest were amazed by Nutty's bravery and kindness. They learned that appearances can be deceiving and that true friendship can be found in the most unexpected places. Nutty was no longer Tiny Nut, but Nutty the Brave, the squirrel who befriended the shadow fox.